When you watch Friends, you see six best friends dealing with love, heartbreak, marriage, and all the romantic chaos that comes with trying to find the right person. But here's what most fans don't realize. The cast members themselves were living out their own love stories behind the scenes, and some of those stories are just as complicated, dramatic, and surprising as anything that happened on the show itself. Some of them fell in love with people from the production. Some of them had relationships that nobody ever knew about. Some of them proposed to people who said no. And some of them found lasting love that's lasted longer than the show itself. In this video, we're uncovering the real relationships, the secret love stories, and the shocking proposals that shaped the lives of the Friends cast members. And trust me, some of these stories are absolutely wild. The most famous almost proposal in Friends history involves Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. For years, fans have wondered what would have happened if these two actually got married. But the truth is more complicated and more interesting than that. Jennifer and Brad dated from 2000 to 2005, and during that time, there were definitely moments where marriage seemed possible. But here's what most people don't know. Brad actually wanted to take the next step, but Jennifer wasn't ready. She had just become the biggest TV star in the world. Friends was at the absolute peak of its popularity. She was building her career as a movie star. And marriage felt like something that would complicate everything she had going on. So even though Brad wanted to propose, Jennifer effectively said no without him ever actually getting down on one knee. The relationship eventually ended, and both of them moved on. Jennifer went on to have several serious relationships, including with actors like Justin Theroux, who she dated for 3 years and came very close to marrying. But something about commitment scared her. She would get serious with someone, things would feel right, and then something would happen and the relationship would end. It's like she was searching for something specific and couldn't quite find it. What's interesting about Jennifer's love life is that she's been incredibly private about it while still being massively famous. Unlike some celebrities who put their relationships all over social media, Jennifer keeps her personal life quiet and protected. As of 2024, she's been in a relationship with a businessman, and it seems more serious than some of her past relationships, but she's not rushing into anything. The lesson from Jennifer's love story is that sometimes the person you think you're supposed to marry isn't actually your person, and that's okay. Sometimes the best thing you can do is wait for someone who makes you feel certain instead of just comfortable. Now, let's talk about Matthew Perry, because his love story has one of the most shocking reveals in recent celebrity history. For years, Matthew dated various actresses and celebrities. He had a very public relationship with Courteney Cox that never actually became romantic, even though fans constantly speculated about it. But the real surprise came when Matthew got engaged to Molly Hurwitz. Molly was a producer and younger than Matthew by quite a bit, but they seemed genuinely happy together. They got engaged in 2020, and fans were excited about Matthew finally finding someone. But then in 2021, they called off the engagement. Matthew announced it publicly, and the reasons weren't immediately clear. Later, it came out that things just didn't work between them. Matthew struggled with wanting different things in life. There was an age difference that created some challenges, and ultimately, they realized they weren't right for each other. What's beautiful about Matthew's story, though, is that he didn't give up on love after that breakup. Instead, he's been open about wanting to find someone who really understands him. In interviews, he's talked about how he's learned a lot about himself and what he actually needs in a relationship. As of 2024, Matthew seems to be in a better place emotionally and romantically. The Friends reunion special that aired in 2021 showed how much the cast cared about Matthew and supported him through his personal struggles. His journey teaches us something really important, which is that sometimes the person you think is right for you isn't, and that's not a failure. It's just life. It's love not working out sometimes, and that's completely normal and human. Let's move to Courteney Cox, because her love story is probably the most dramatic and also the most hopeful of the entire cast. In the early 2000s, Courteney met David Arquette on the set of Friends. David was a guest star on the show, and they had incredible chemistry. They flirted, things developed, and they started dating. It was a real friend-set romance. They got married in 2011, and for a while, they seemed like the perfect couple. They had a daughter together. They worked on projects together. They seemed genuinely in love, but then something changed. The marriage started struggling. Courtney and David had different ideas about what they wanted from life. There was tension about work, about family, about the direction their relationship was going. In 2013, they separated. In 2014, they got divorced. The divorce was messy and painful, especially because they had a child together, and they had to figure out co-parenting while being in the same industry and seeing each other at industry events. But here's where Courtney's story becomes beautiful and hopeful. She didn't stay bitter about David. They worked on their relationship and actually became friends again. And then, in 2014, Courtney met Johnny McDaid, who is a musician. Johnny was different from David. He understood what Courtney needed. They dated. They fell in love, and in 2015, Johnny proposed. And this time, Courtney said yes. They got married, and they're still together today. What's fascinating is that Courtney's story shows us something important. Sometimes the first person you think is your soulmate isn't. But that doesn't mean you won't find someone who actually is. The David Arquette relationship wasn't a failure. It was part of her journey. And now she's in a marriage that actually works and makes her happy. The timeline of her relationships coincided with Friends being on the air, which means she was living out all of this personal drama while playing Monica Geller, who was also dealing with relationship drama on the show. Now let's talk about Lisa Kudrow, because her love story is completely different from the others. Lisa got married to Michelle Stern in 1995, before Friends even started. And here's the crazy part. They're still married today. That's almost 30 years of marriage. In Hollywood, that's practically unheard of. Lisa and Michelle met early in her career when she was still struggling as an actress. Michael was an advertising executive. He wasn't in the entertainment industry. He wasn't famous. He was just a regular guy who saw something special in Lisa. They fell in love, they got married, and they've stayed together through everything. Through Friends becoming a massive phenomenon, through Lisa's career taking off, through raising their children together, through all the changes that come with being married for 3 decades. What's remarkable about Lisa's relationship is how private they've kept it. You rarely see Michelle at events. Lisa doesn't talk constantly about her marriage on social media. They just live their life together quietly. In interviews, when Lisa has talked about her marriage, she's mentioned that communication and respect are the most important things. They make decisions together. They support each other's dreams. And they've managed to build a life together that has lasted longer than Friends was even on the air. Lisa's love story is the most stable and the least dramatic, but it might also be the most successful. She found someone who loved her before she was famous, and they've stayed together through all of it. That's a real success story. Matt LeBlanc's love life has been less documented than some of the other cast members, which is probably intentional. Matt was married to Melissa McKnight from 2003 to 2011. They had a daughter together named Marina. When they got divorced, Matt chose to keep most of the details private. He's talked in interviews about his daughter being his priority and about how he wanted to protect her privacy. After the divorce, Matt dated but stayed relatively quiet about his relationship. He's been in some relationships that were more public, but he doesn't generally use social media to broadcast his personal life. As of 2024, Matt is believed to be dating, but he keeps that very private. What's interesting about Matt's approach is that it's different from some other celebrities. He's famous, but he's chosen to keep his romantic life separate from his public image. He acts, he does his job, he's a father, and his personal relationships are just that, personal. His story teaches us that you don't have to share everything with the world just because you're famous. David Schwimmer's love story is also one that he's kept relatively private, which actually makes it more interesting when details do come out. David married Zoe Jackson, who is an IO theater director, in 2010. They met through the entertainment industry, but she wasn't an actress or someone famous. They got married and seemed happy together. They had 2 children together, but in 2017, they announced they were separating. By 2022, they had finalized their divorce. David has spoken about how the separation was difficult, especially because they have children together. But like the other cast members, he's focused on co-parenting and moving forward. As of 2024, David has been private about any new relationships, and he seems focused on his directing work and his role as a father. What's noticeable about David's approach is that he doesn't discuss his relationships publicly very much. He keeps his personal life separate from his professional life, which is a choice that many of the Friends cast have made. One of the most interesting parts of the Friends cast's love lives is how their relationships intersected with the show's storylines. While they were playing characters dealing with relationship drama on television, they were also living through real relationship drama in their own lives. Jennifer Aniston was dealing with the pressure of being the most famous cast member while trying to have a normal relationship. Matthew Perry was struggling with personal demons while playing the funniest character on the show. Courteney was navigating a marriage to someone from the production while playing a character obsessed with finding true love and getting married. Lisa was maintaining the most stable marriage while playing a character whose love life was chaotic and unpredictable. The irony and the reality of it all is actually pretty beautiful when you think about it. There's also the interesting question of whether any of the cast members had crushes on each other off-screen. Fans have speculated for years about this. Did Rachel and Ross have real chemistry? Did Chandler and Monica ever have real feelings for each other? The truth is that the cast has been pretty clear about their relationships with each other. They were colleagues and friends, but they weren't romantically involved with each other. There was one famous incident where it came out that someone may have had feelings for someone, but nothing ever happened. The cast treated each other like family. They supported each other through the good times and the hard times. And that friendship was real, even if the romantic feelings between their characters were scripted. What's beautiful about looking at the Friends cast's love lives is that we see 6 different approaches to relationships and marriage. Jennifer's cautious approach, waiting for the right person and not settling. Matthew's journey through heartbreak and his search for real connection. Courtney's transformation from a failed marriage to a successful one. Lisa's quiet, steady, long-lasting partnership. Matt's focus on privacy and protecting his family. And David's discreet approach to relationships. None of these approaches is wrong. They're all valid. They all show that people experience love differently and navigate relationships in their own way. The cast's love stories also show us something important about fame and relationships. When you're incredibly famous, like the Friends cast became, it affects every aspect of your life, including your romantic relationships. People are interested in your personal life. Paparazzi follow you. Media outlets speculate about you. Fans have opinions about who you should be with. That kind of constant scrutiny puts pressure on relationships. It makes private moments public. It creates complications that normal couples don't have to deal with. And yet, despite all of that, some of the cast members have managed to find love and build families. That's actually remarkable. Another interesting angle is how the cast members have chosen to handle their love lives publicly versus privately as time has gone on. When Friends was airing, there was more celebrity gossip coverage, more tabloid interest, more public speculation about relationships. Nowadays, the cast has more control over what they share. Social media exists, but they choose whether or not to use it to broadcast their personal lives. Some of them have chosen to be more open, while others have chosen to be more private. And both approaches seem to work. Jennifer has kept most of her relationships private, and she seems content. Lisa has had the same long marriage and has kept it very private, and she's obviously found happiness. So there's no one right way to do it. The cast's relationships also teach us about timing and compatibility. Just because you love someone doesn't necessarily mean you're right for each other. Just because someone proposes doesn't mean you have to say yes. Just because a marriage ends doesn't mean it was a failure. Courtney's relationship with David Arquette wasn't a failure just because they divorced. It was real while it lasted. It produced a beautiful child, and it taught them both things about what they needed in a partner. Jennifer and Brad's relationship wasn't a failure just because they didn't get married. They had years together. They loved each other in their own way. And then they grew in different directions, which is also completely normal. If there's one overarching lesson from the Friends cast's love stories, it's this. Love is complicated. Relationships are hard. Marriage takes work. And sometimes, despite all your efforts, things don't work out, and that's okay. The cast members have all experienced heartbreak, rejection, failed relationships, and the challenges that come with trying to build a life with another person. But they've also experienced real love. They've experienced joy. They've experienced the beauty of finding someone who truly makes you happy. And they've all handled their personal struggles with grace and dignity, which is actually more impressive than any perfect relationship could be. The Friends cast's real-life relationships show us that the cast members are just regular people dealing with regular human problems, except they're doing it in the public eye. They fall in love, they get hurt, they make mistakes, they learn from those mistakes, they grow, they move forward. Some of them find lasting happiness. Some of them are still searching. Some of them have found love in unexpected places and unexpected times. And all of it is part of the human experience. The fact that they've managed to maintain their careers, raise their families, and navigate relationships while being among the most famous people in the world is actually really impressive. Subscribe to CelebTruth for more Friends cast analysis, relationship deep dives, love story breakdowns, and the real truth about your favorite celebrities' personal lives. In our next video, we're diving even deeper into the Friends cast's behind-the-scenes feuds and the drama that almost destroyed the show. And trust me, some of that drama is absolutely shocking. Let us know in the comments which Friends cast member's love story surprised you the most. Which relationship did you not know about? Did you think any of the cast members should have ended up together in real life? Let's discuss in the comments below. Thanks for watching CelebTruth, and I'll see you in the next one.